Hi. Oh, it's really good to be here. I really like this professional selfie stick. No pressure added by it or anything. I am Tim. Yes, not like my tag says Timothy. When they were calling everyone out to get theirs, I actually thought I was in trouble for something, which is the only time I hear Timothy. It's my mom is like, Timothy Holman, get to the kitchen. So I'm from Australia. My accent has gone a little bit American. I live in the US at the moment. It is nice to be in a country that uses Celsius again. It really, really is. Fahrenheit makes no sense at all. I've taken to calling them freedoms, so it's like 80 freedoms today, which is a good system. And I was kind of going for that for a while, and then eventually some people in the office caught on and called Celsius communists, so I've moved away from that now. I don't want to breed any conflict. There's a lot of different kind of talks. There's a lot of different kind of talks today, especially, and this is probably the less educational kind of talk. The kind of thing that I want to get onto here is like an inspiring run of things and kind of showing like a bunch of the things that I've kind of created throughout the last, 5 or so years, related to JavaScript and related to the web. And kind of related to like my way of thinking about these things and how I feel about all this stuff. There's a slide that just says the web. I don't really remember what that was going to be about. So let's just carry on. We're like a really passionate industry, really, really, really passionate industry, and it kind of comes out sometimes in a lot of really weird ways. The other day I created a node module called the Internet. And it required the 2,000 most popular node modules. So you can't even run it because it will just like fill up your whole computer. And I tried to submit that to the NPM registry. And I think they might try to build your projects on their side because like the response took about 5 minutes to come back. And then it was like, please use less dependencies. And then the part after that was, don't be so ridiculous. And that was the response in my console. Don't be so ridiculous. And I kind of want to be more ridiculous. And sometimes like the passionate side of us comes out a little bit weird. People get like upset when they see something that's not their way of doing it, and they're not particularly happy about this. So this module in that case is like, Tim, settle down, stop being so ridiculous. A lot of the things that I've created kind of get these responses from people, and I have long kind of GitHub arguments, and I'm like eventually just kind of close off the issue. And a lot of these things are really, really small things. The things that don't really stress me out, and it's things that I don't even think about on a day-to-day basis. But every now and then, someone will come and they'll be like, you shouldn't use this. You shouldn't style this way. And it kind of blows me away because, I'm coming from Australia, which is like a really laid-back, relaxed place. I'm not really the most high-intensity person when we're arguing about things, especially when we're arguing about tech. I want to create the things. I want to make it nice. I want to make it beautiful, and I want to move on. I've got a couple of quotes that I find really interesting. This is one from when Dropbox launched. Dropbox was kind of out and they pitched the world. I think this is in like the depths of Hacker News somewhere. And somebody's piped up, like for a Linux user, you can already build such a system, talking about Dropbox, yourself trivially by setting up an FTP account, mounting it locally with curled FTPs, using SVN and CVS for the mounted file system. And like, no, you can't just do that. These guys like lock onto a project and kind of like instantly kind of being a little bit hateful on it. This is another one from Imager, which is hugely popular, and it's like anyone can make an image hosting service that doesn't suck. But tell me in a year or two if you're still around and not sucking, and then I'll consider it. So that dude ate his words. I feel good about this. This is like some things from my repositories. Somebody opened an issue called "This Scares Me." Ash Clark, the name's there. I'm shaming him or her. Why do you do this? Like, you go to a website and it's like, scared me. I've had people like create a pull request that just deletes the repository. Like, thanks. This is another one. This is absolutely trash. Max107. What a douchebag. This is, and we're kind of like weird about this. This is a really cool one that I found as a superstitious kind of dude. It was like, this repository has 666 stars. Can somebody star it or unstar it? I don't know what kind of circumstance we ran into for that to happen. But I was watching it for about a day, and it was like a limbo balance, and then eventually somebody started, ruined the fun for all of us. And this kind of attitude I like to liken it to Anakin Skywalker. He was an engineer, and it was pretty obvious why he ended up being a Sith, because of all the crap that he probably had to deal with online, which can turn you into like a bitter person. It can turn you into a sour person, and I don't want that. I want to talk about fun. I want to talk about building things that are fun. I want to talk about getting excited and getting this kind of enjoyable feeling when you're developing and when you're seeing things that people are creating. And truly, I don't really think that there's any reason we need to make these things. Another analogy that I like to make is when we all learn to read, we also learn to write. And when you write, you don't just write in magazines and articles and serious newspapery stuff. You know, there's creative writing, and there's poetry, and there's all these different things. And I kind of feel like the web is a similar place. This website is the first time that I kind of ran into that. And I built this three or so years ago. Yeah, the guy doesn't go in the puddle. I built this 3 or so years ago. It's called The Useless Web, and it's just a button. In the middle of the page, there's arrows pointing to the button. I kind of hid the like and tweet counts, but I think I looked at the likes the other day, and it's maybe like 600 million or 600,000. It's a lot. It's like gets a lot of traffic. And when you press this button, it kind of takes you to strange websites. This one's called eelslap.com. And when you move your mouse to the left to the right, you slap the guy. And this blows me away that this exists, that somebody, one, slapped another person with an eel. The other person was willing to be slapped by the eel, and the slime comes off. You know, you can see the slime. I've spent a lot of time on here. And then bought a URL like eelslap.com is available. What should we do with it? Let's buy it. And it shouldn't exist. But look, it's got it's got thousands of tweets and thousands of likes. People really are into it. I was trying to think like what would the ARIA tags be for this, and it was pretty impossible. There's more of these. Like this one's just a mango. It's a mango that just goes around. It's translated from French to English, which is nice. Somebody just loves mangoes so much that they made this fantastic, beautiful website that has a single mango on it. Here's another great example. I really like this one. This is beesbeesbees.com. Oprah is releasing the bees, and everyone kind of is like a little bit upset. She loves it. Why does this exist? It doesn't even matter. It doesn't really matter that it exists, but it's a really special thing that it does exist. And I kind of collated a bunch of these. I was kind of stuck inside. The hurricane was hitting New York at the time. And I kind of collated all these websites and built a thing with a button. And people spend a lot of time on this website. The feeling that it gives, this is very American, is not being able to even, or as the kids would say, I can't even. Deal with this stuff. It's so obscenely strange. People on the useless web, it gets like millions and millions of people come every single day, and they spend maybe 8 or 9 or 10 minutes on it, which is a huge amount of time for anybody with an attention span like me. So over the past month, it has like a big surge of traffic, and then I collate the amount of people and the amount of time that they've spent on it, and it's over 50 years human time, which is insane. Like I wish I could just spend 50 years on this whole website. I almost feel like I've made a negative effect on some companies if they just, all of their employees kind of look at this and spend their time on it, which makes me feel pretty happy because screw those guys. And again, like why do these things exist? It doesn't. That's a picture of me working most of the time. I work at Tumblr. I didn't even mention that. Me working most of the time. There's no real reason that this stuff should exist. So this is kind of my second example. You kind of notice in this presentation when I go from slide to slide, it's using a star wipe. Which was very important to me at the time. One late night when I was very drunk, and I want a star wipe between slide to slide. And I kind of looked at all the presentation frameworks, and nothing really could star wipe. I've got a lot of colors here. I'm just going to go through it. So this whole talk's really epileptic, actually. I didn't mention that at the start, but I kind of it's like, oh, I've gone too far. And like, is this fun? I don't know. I kind of got into it. I kind of started building out this framework, and I just wanted to see where I could go with it, and so like I added. This was kind of like a cheat mode. I can make them like really slow. So I feel like if I'm not running on time, I'm going to really slow down these transitions, and we're going to make a lot of extra time. Let's speed them up a little bit. Another cool thing, because they're all SVG, is I can change the SVG, so I can have heart wipes, which is nice. It kind of gives like, oh, Tim's a nice guy. He's got lots of hearts. And there's a thumbs up. That's a little bit subliminal, like thumbs up, Tim, nice guy. And then this one was kind of my personal favorite, which is a donkey, so it's technically an arse wipe between slides. So let's stick with the arse wipes for now as we carry on. I like this, this GIF perfectly describes me. They drop a bunch of balls and the dog's freaking out and it wants this and it wants that and I want to get all the things. And this is kind of what happened to me when I was building this presentation. This is a list of fears that I had. And the first one was that I'm not going to make the time perfectly right. I think every speaker kind of has this fear a little bit. So of course I can slow down the transitions and eat up a little bit of time. It's kind of like cheating. So I kind of ticked that one off. The next thing was that everything will break. It's nothing really I can do about that. And then the third thing when you're giving a talk you're kind of worried about is if you're going to run out of, if you're going to forget what to say, if I'm going to forget what to say. So I needed a system for speaker notes in the presentation, which I then built. So if I press H, up come my hands, and there's my speaker notes. I also realized when I was doing this how ugly my hands look, which was freaky. So I fixed them with CSS. It's a little bit of blur, a little bit of brightness, a little bit of grayscale. That's how they do it on TV, I imagine. Maybe I'm born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. But it is just CSS. And this is interesting. When Vitalis was talking about laziness, raise your hand if you're a lazy person. Yeah, see, all the people that didn't raise their hands are really the lazy people here. The laziest. But I'm a lazy person, and when I started practicing this and I had the system for speaker notes, I realized that I was just really leaning heavily on it. And I'm like, yeah, if I'm, oh, what was that slide again? These don't really make much sense. It's a guy just sitting there as the dude. So obviously, why can't I stop cheating? That's my helper note. But I would do this over and over. So I had to build a system to prevent me from cheating. So the more you do it, it starts mangling the words. And then eventually it's I'm not even going to give you the speaker notes anymore. Tim, you need to learn this talk. So in this sense, I had to almost stop myself from being lazy. And I'm still just building this thing to do the presentation. Now I'm just talking about it. It's kind of gone full circle. I also built in, I really did go crazy with this. I built in, if I was feeling a little bit sad, I built in some motivational notices. What a smile. Oh, Tim. You're so nice. And then I was like, oh, that's going to make me a little bit happy, but maybe I'm going to get a little bit too cocky, so I need to build some demotivational things. Just to bring myself back to earth a little bit. Anyhow, what else did I build here? I built in X-ray mode, so I can convert everything to inverted colors. And then if I try to get speaker notes, I just get skeleton hands. Oh yeah, I can also beach ball myself, and just in case my mouse has gone into the beach ball mode, just in case I need an excuse to stop doing this. Anyhow, that's for the most part. The presentation system that I'm using, it's interesting, the idea of a website being mad at you and stopping you from doing what it's there for, the speaker note jumbling text. And I kind of like that idea in some ways, and I find it intriguing when computers are kind of stopping you from doing. I'm going to switch back to the start wipe. Stop doing from what you want. So passwords are a big example of this. This is a slide of another slide, which is clever, because if you take a picture now, we can have multi-3-slide inception. But it says, passwords are like pants. You shouldn't leave them out where people can see them. You should change them regularly, and you should not loan them out to strangers. We understand that. We understand that our password is an important thing. And this is kind of an example. This is from Ubuntu, but you put in your password, and it's not strong enough for the system or whatever, and it says your password is too simple. Please choose another password. And I'm kind of a little bit offended by that. I kind of feel fuck you. I just want my password to be password in this case, of course it's not. But we understand that. But it's interesting to see a computer telling you just think about this for a second. I'm smarter than you. You're too simple. Fix it up. And obviously the next step in this case was to build my own password feedback system called a passive-aggressive password machine. And the thought process behind it was like that your in-laws, I don't even have in-laws, but I imagine they're terrible. Your in-laws are helping you with a password. What would they say? So as I type in a password, it's like, you call that a password? Like, do you even know what a password is? I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. That's a big one. My mom got me with that one a few times. I'm sorry. Try harder. Like, it just keeps, the more complex I get the password, perhaps this was good 10 years ago. Not too shabby for a 3-year-old. It's so close, it could carry. Needs to get some emojis in there. Here we go. Where are we? And then, in the end, it's like, you're not even going to remember this password. So obviously, my own password algorithm it's the first step pretty much to taking over the world. And that's been, this has been shared a lot of times. I think people kind of get the joke and they understand, and it's funny. It kind of scares me to think maybe that people might have entered their real passwords into a random website, which defeats the whole purpose, but thankfully I'm not really tracking anything. There's a lot of crap online, and this is kind of like an example of it, but there's a great talk, I'm sure many of you have heard it, from Brad Frost, talking about death to bullshit. And he kind of is just talking about some of the crap that's online. And I don't necessarily agree with him by all means, because I think I've worked in advertising and I've built things that I'm not necessarily proud of, but this is kind of what's requested of me and this is what people want. And a big example of these is these pop-ups. Look at this. I actually had to include this because this is the most devil-spawned pop-up I've ever seen in the world. It's got an audio thing going on, so you know it's playing sound. It says add this unblockable pop-up. It's atrocious. It's kind of selling itself. But sometimes these things need to happen. Sometimes you need to build things like this because that's what's being asked of you. We can't all take this moral high ground and refuse to take on projects when they have some kind of questionable UI and UX intent. But I also was kind of thinking, how could this be worse? How could my life be worse right now than building these nasty pop-ups? What could be, people want them to share their social media. How can I make it so much worse than that? And I came up with this library, which is called Can't Not Tweet This. And this is just like a demonstration page of the library, and there's a tweet button on the page, and whenever you move your mouse, the tweet button is just stuck. It's stuck to it. And it's really effective because 50,000 people have shared this page. And I don't fully understand, but some people are doing it accidentally. It works. The system works. I haven't seen it live yet, but I am surprised that I haven't seen it anywhere because it is truly a travesty. And I kind of like this way of thinking. I really like thinking how could this be worse? How could I ruin things up a little bit for myself? And interaction is a big area where this happens. It's a big area where you can kind of swing both ways. It's like a limbo. When you're building something, you can just decide, oh, I'm going to make this really nice for people, or you can go over the top and it can be a little bit ridiculous. This is a website I built for a good friend of mine, Tobias. It's for a weather app that you may have seen as well. It's called Authentic Weather. At the time, a lot of designers were building, oh, it's a little bit broken. Everyone was building weather apps. And this one kind of just tells you, it's fucking raining, look outside. You don't really need to know about it. And I built this website for him and it's a nice website. It's got some Instagram stuff. And this is kind of an instance of a project that is nice and it looks nice and it's nice to build, but there's kind of room to grow. There's areas that you can explore, and if you're going to build one website, maybe this takes 3 days to build. You can get small pieces out of it, and interaction is a big area of that. So this is probably the best example of it. This is the button, and zoom in on it here. This was the button in the website that you click to take you to the App Store. And I was kind of thinking, how can I add some nice interaction to this button? How can I add something that's kind of enjoyable or Easter eggy to people? So when you hover it, it kind of tells you a story. So how are you today? I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. It's a good life, being a button. The work is hard, but it's enjoyable. Yeah, it's great. Save me. I really enjoy this. I really enjoy packaging a small part of a website and injecting some fun into it, injecting a little bit of nice interaction and kind of sending it off like that. It's truly enjoyable, and it's nice on its own, and it's nice discovery for people within the website. This is the nice, that's what I'm talking about. It's a nice way. But then you can also think the opposite. What is the worst button that could exist in the world? And of course, I needed to build a library for this. And I called it GIF links. So this is the website for GIF links, and it's like a JavaScript library. It's open source, rah, rah, rah. Since the dawn of the internet, and here's the orange like internet hyperlink, you know something's going to be there. But when you hover it, bam, full screen GIF. Since the dawn of the internet, the world has been asking, why are hover interactions so boring? Only recently has a new paradigm arisen to solve these emotionally crippling problems. Designers call them GIF links. This is actually, this GIF, I just stop here, is my favorite GIF of all time. It's like a toy from the 50s with a thing attached to the head, and this kid's looking like he's trying to enjoy it, but I actually think it's causing some permanent damage. The way he has to walk, I really want to get one. Designers call them GIF links. It's a little known fact that 9 out of 10 UX specialists agree that GIF links provide a richer, more enhanced user experience that can be tailored specifically for the enjoyment of your audience. So yeah, I kind of built this library out, and I've seen this in the wild in a lot of places. I've also got emails from people saying like, Tim, you are fucking up the internet bad with this one. It's a terrible idea, a terrible library. What are you doing? But I kind of like that. I like that kind of weirdness. Sometimes you kind of notice like quirky things that we do as developers and designers anyway. And these are something that I like to look a little bit closely at and kind of see what's happening here. What is there some small way that we can play with this, and is there some small way that we can do something a little bit more enjoyable? And this first one is called Overscroll. I've got it in. It only works in Safari now. I did release it, and like as soon as I released this, like 2 weeks later, Chrome patched the bug in Chrome. I was like, Google crap, patch the bug, blah, blah, blah. But in this, when you're scrolling on like an iOS device and you scroll beyond the edge of the screen, it kind of has that little spring effect. And I notice in JavaScript, when you're checking the scroll position, it still changes. So what I could do is when you reach the end of the page, or when you reach the top of the page, we could add something just like in there like that. And Grumpy Cat, obviously, it was between Patrick Star and Grumpy Cat, and Grumpy Cat won out in the end. And this is a nice, strange little library that can totally exist on its own, that can totally provide like a weird little bit of experience for people. I actually really like it. I'm just going to eat up some time here. I really like it. This is another example of something that I was doing with Tobias. He's a fantastic designer. And like a good designer relationship for me is when they design something nice and I'm excited to build it anyway because it looks good and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a nice, like, clean, small project. But I also have a really good working relationship with him in that he's like, Tim, play around with it. Like, tell me what you want, and we'll add that in there. So this is the website. Let me go to it. It's for a beard oil, and obviously there's some nice like blur going on, and there's a nice, here it is. And it's like, play around with it. And I was kind of looking at it, and I was like, oh, there's not that much really that I can play around with it. And the kind of quirk that I'm talking about is that a lot of people do ASCII art, and I want an animated ASCII art when you're inspecting the DOM. So I got this winking guy. It's like, this is really cool. It's a really weird surprise for anyone that goes in there because that's not something that you regularly see. But it is animation technically, and it adds like a nice little touch. And of course, I turned this into a whole library I call DOM Animator. What is it? So and this one has like the same thing. It's got like a little monkey. See no evil, speak, do the thing. Actually, I made this terrible mistake. Whoa. I made this terrible mistake with this site for Tobias. I'll just go into it now. Where I decided it would be a good idea to name all my CSS classes after types of beards. It's like Garibaldi, Old Dutch beard, Soul Patch, and like I got so confused by the end of it. It was a nightmare. So now you know that. Don't name your CSS after beards. Give them real names. That's probably the most information you'll get from this whole presentation. So yeah, sometimes there's other things that are kind of like, again, things that we do a lot and things that we build a lot. And you kind of think sometimes like you can extend off those and you can build off those. This is a library that I built. It's called Elevator.js. And this was kind of my take on back to top buttons. Like the front end Here, website has one of these where you press it and it's going to scroll you back to the top of the page. And Tumblr has one of these, which is called the elevator. And in a hack day, I kind of did this, and eventually, I'm scrolling to the bottom of the page. Eventually, you press the back to top button, and that's nice, right? It's a nice little touch. It's interesting to see, even when you're building something like an elevator button, how much stuff goes into building something to scroll nicely to the top of the page. First, you're like, oh, I need like an easing algorithm, and I need to run like a request animation frame, and I need to handle it when people change the... Like, it ended up being a lot of work just to add some sound to a button that scrolls to the top. A lot of people didn't get this either. Like, they had sound off, and it's like, why is everyone sharing this thing that scrolls to the top of the page? And it's happened to me a lot. They're like, yeah, I noticed your most popular open source thing is like a shitty scroll thing. Anyway, yeah, I kind of like think it's a good idea to kind of relax on these things and not get too stressed out and kind of like grow off what you're building. Tumblr's a really relaxed place. I'll let that slide tantalize you into what I'm going to talk about. Tumblr's a really relaxed place. It's a very old code base. Well, 7 years, but like it's kind of been constantly iterated upon, and it's interesting to see some of the strange things that you find in the code. And there was obviously this function that I found, generate dolphins, which was, I was like, stop the press. Something inside Tumblr is generating dolphins. We need to find it. And it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, and I'm trying to read the code and see like what's happening. Eventually, I found it in our audio player. When it's finished playing the song, it's a little bit difficult to see here. In the audio bars, there's actually like a dolphin swimming around. And I'm like, this is a really nice, weird, small touch. Somebody actually was also like, this isn't a dolphin, this is a shark, because the fins are shaped different. It's like, don't ruin it for everyone. And then, more interestingly, was the deconstruction of the dolphin function, which was called when dolphins cry, which was unreal. It made me very happy to see that kind of stuff. This is another example of something that we've kind of built at Tumblr. I built on this with April Fools, and somebody particularly built this thing, which is called Copy, which is, let's see if Tumblr loads. I always get scared. I think it's because I work on it. Copy was our version of the Clippy plugin for Microsoft. What was it? Microsoft Word had Clippy, and we had Copy. And this thing was like beyond annoying. I love building annoying shit. And Copy, he would kind of pop up. He had 1,000 frames. He's just like, everything that you're doing just slows completely down, chugs, and he's there, and he's like animating. He's this nice, happy copy machine. And you could dismiss him, and 10 seconds later, he would come right back in. Everyone on Tumblr truly hated this guy, which was kind of like his purpose. But it was really fun to build like a weird like little thing. A lot of things kind of came from Copy. There was like a lot of fan art, obviously. A lot of people made, like there was a human version of Copy. I think the weirdest one that existed was like erotic fan fiction of the Copy machine, which I will never read again. And he was getting a lot of hate. And towards the end of the day, he started to get sick, which is the animation on the far left. He started, kind of his eyes start to droop, and it's a little bit like he's going to die. And like everyone just did a complete backflip. They're like, no, I love him now. He's going to go. We need Copy. That's why there's this rest in peace. Here's his gravestone. He will be remembered. There he is in Steven Universe. Copy is fantastic. And well, this is another weird example of a big fuck up that we made one time, where it turned out in Tumblr posts you could add classes to paragraph tags, which is of course like a terrible idea because people start adding classes to their paragraph tags and ruining everyone's dashboard. We kind of claimed it like this is a staff post, but this is like some examples of things that people started to do. This was in like the first 5 minutes. They're like, we can fuck up Tumblr right now. What are we gonna do? That's maybe a small example. Here are things like starting to go a little bit haywire. Things started to get a lot more haywire. at the end. And people are brutal. Like this is like, welcome to my fuck house. Right? And that's stuck on everybody's dashboard. It's horrific. Here's a really glitchy one. I don't even know how to do this if I wanted to do it. Fuck you stuff. This is a really weird thing, and this is kind of about like claiming the mistakes that you've made. Somebody's already mentioned it today. It's nice to like have claimed this and to see like, oh, if we can add CSS to everyone's page, how much trouble we can make. It's really enjoyable, and I kind of like that idea as well of like being mischievous with CSS and being mischievous with anything really. And this is an interesting thing. I don't know if anyone's seen this file before, but it lives on, at least on a Mac, custom.css. And if you add something to this file, every tab that anyone has of Chrome open will apply these styles to it. Everything. So we wrote like a little quick bash script to start adding things to people's browsing experience. And the way to truly be mischievous is to do subtle, small things that kind of confuse them a little bit, and you can watch them from across the room. You know, if you just made the whole screen red, they're just going to be like, oh, this is dumb, something's happened. But it's like the little things that are really confusing. So custom CSS is truly like it's the best thing. So this is the first thing that I did, which is a really subtle hue change over 10 seconds on everything on their page. And this is like subtle enough. Like you go to Google, obviously black and white don't change either. So you go to Google and you can kind of see like the logo changing, and maybe in your head you're like, oh, they're doing something with the logo today. Here's the effect actually. This is kind of subtle, but it's on this nice image. So it's very obvious here that the colors are shifting, and it's in a much quicker thing. But maybe do that over 60 seconds, you're going to confuse the crap out of somebody. And I like this. I like confusing people. This was a really interesting one where this is just a rotation animation, but I'm specifically applying it to logo, class and ID, logo image, and logo dash image. And surprisingly, unsurprisingly enough, like a lot of websites use these classes for their logos. And if you do this to somebody on their machine, logos on every website pretty much are going to be spinning. And that doesn't ruin the experience for them. It confuses them, but you kind of live with it. Like 3 weeks, the logos are still spinning. Maybe they go to their mom's house and like, oh, your logo's not spinning like mine. I thought that was a weird. And like, here's Netflix with a spinning logo. Here's Google with a spinning logo. That's a nice feature, I think. I mean, maybe we should just roll that out everywhere. This is another good one. Just like grayscale, just make everything black and white for them. In Chrome only. If they go to Firefox, oh look, everything's got color again. I don't know. It's a good one. This is what I wanted to do first. I wanted to make an animation that cycled through fonts really quickly, really to blow their minds. But the browsers don't even let you do that. Which is incredible. I also like particularly here that the linter refuses to say papyrus is a real thing. Like Helvetica, monospace, totally fine. Papyrus, don't even talk to me about papyrus. Or just make every link hot pink, you know? Why not? It's kind of confusing, but you can totally do it. I like this kind of like joke thing. This was something I built. Like another good fun pastime of mine is messing with Americans. As an Australian. And this was kind of an extension. This is a Chrome extension that I built, and it was kind of an extension from the GIF links thing earlier. And every web page that you go on, if it has the word America in it, the word America starts flashing red, white, and blue, which is, it's a little bit tantalizing already. And then when you hover it, you get GIFs, you get sounds. I'm just going to keep doing it. Yeah, that's my favorite. The kind of screeching American thing. I actually had to turn this off after building it because I kept scaring the crap out of myself. The word America appears in a lot more things than you would actually think. True story. I kind of feel like I'm kind of coming towards the end here. I kind of think that it's important to have a quote in your talk. And I use this quote for everything because it's probably my most favorite quote in the world. That is, keep cool, don't freeze. And this is kind of important to me. There's a lot of different things kind of coming out on the web, a lot, every single day. There's just something new. There's a new device. There's a new thing. And you kind of need to keep cool in these situations and not really stress out about them. You can't be like, oh, I'm going to change onto this, and I'm going to use this new thing, and I'm going to use this new thing. It's like, but Versalis, you say, no. There's a new, Facebook released a new framework and we need to update it. No, just don't worry about it right now. Let's keep going with what we're doing, because if you do that, if you keep trying to stay with the very top of the top of the top of the top, you kind of get into this frozen state where you're not really advancing and you're not really moving. So many conferences I've gone to, and especially like even a couple of months ago when React was really new, it's like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I work at Tumblr, like, I build on the dashboard. And they're like, yeah, well, we have this like React app that's doing this and this and this and this. And it blows me away that people are very, very eager to just throw away what they have and then jump onto the new thing. So I don't want you to freeze. It is really, really, really bad to stop creating and stop finishing the things that you're making and stop kind of getting them out there and getting them to the world. It's really important. That quote actually came from a jar of mayonnaise as well, which you should keep cool and not freeze. So it's, inspiration's everywhere. So yeah, I think we should make more of these things. I'm kind of like coming down to a close now. Of course, there should be an asshole.js. This is all the things that you can do that make browsing worse. If you try to go to a new tab, it's like, no, here's a pop-up. Do you want to do this? You try to copy-paste, it's like, no, you can't copy our special text. We should make more things like asshole.js. We should make more things like Comcastify, which isn't really relevant here where the internet's amazing. But in America, it's slow as balls. Fart scroll.js, of course that should exist. When you scroll, there should be fart noises everywhere. Let's just do it. Let's get it out on the web. Of course, there should be a programming language around Doge. That should definitely exist. Of course, CSS for Babies, where I learned everything, should definitely exist. Thank you. Cheers. I'm around. Come approach me. Don't let the douchey hat dissuade you from coming and hanging out. Thank you.
Questions? I know. Okay.
I have a job on the side as well. I actually, mind you, a lot of the time at work I don't really, I'm working. Sometimes I kind of have this thing and I'm like, oh, I need to be making this. This is a weird example of that. I built a website to give people the finger. I built this in the office, and right behind me was a board meeting and a glass thing, and I'm here trying to get the colors right for the finger. It's got to be the right kind of red when they're at the top. The average time people spend on this site is a minute and a half. I don't know how long it takes to figure it out. What am I doing? But I don't know even what the question was anymore. But that was that finger.
I think. The question was, how do you make money? But
yes.
But we've already established you work for Tumblr.
Yes.
How does Tumblr make money? That's a better question. But I don't think we need to get into that. That's not something you need to answer at all. My bad. Next question. Seriously. You, sir, in the back.
Yeah.
How do you change someone else's custom CSS file? I think we all want to know that.
So the way that I usually do it is oh, you see this person, Sam, has left his computer open and it's logged in, which happens all the time. I have a gist, so I go straight to the website that has a gist of just the console commands that just cats it straight into the file. And that already has built in the particular effect that I want to use on them. Because, different people need different effects. Maybe make the font size smaller for some people and it will drive them nuts. Maybe make it bigger for some people. And the kicker is when they say, in a passing conversation, when you forgot about it 4 days later, it's have you noticed that all the websites have purple links right now? Oh yeah, I did that to you. Sorry. So that's generally the fastest way to do it. You don't really need to hack into their machine or anything. Here you can.
And here you were all thinking you could just put a script on your site, weren't you? I know some of you were. And next question. Come on, we got a couple of minutes, a couple more questions. I know you've got them. Now, see, what they're all thinking now is, yeah, we could ask some questions, or we could go and get some ice cream before the final talk.
I'm thinking about that too.
Right, that's what they're thinking. Okay, let's do it. Tim will be around. Tonight is the party. We'll talk more about that after the final talk. So one more big round of applause for Tim.
Thank you.